I grew up in a small, quiet town surrounded by dense woods. Everyone knew everyone else, and nothing exciting ever happened until the summer of 2003. I was 16 that year, just old enough to start craving a little independence, but still young enough to think I was invincible. My best friend, Jake, and I spent most of that summer exploring the forest behind my house. We'd been through every trail and clearing, at least we thought we had. One evening, just after the sun had dipped below the horizon, we decided to check out a part of the woods we usually avoided. It was farther out, past the old abandoned cabin that had been falling apart for years. The local kids called it the Hunter's Shack, and there were plenty of ghost stories about it. People hearing voices, seeing lights that shouldn't be there, and even the occasional rumor about someone who went missing after venturing too close. I never believed any of it, at least not until that night. We set out with our flashlights and a couple of sandwiches, planning to make it a quick adventure. The woods felt different as we went deeper. The air was colder and everything was too quiet. No crickets, no owls, just the sound of our footsteps crunching against dead leaves. I remember joking with Jake that the silence meant something was watching us. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. We reached the Hunter's Shack about an hour later. It was more run down than I remembered. The roof sagged and the windows were boarded up, but the door stood slightly open. I figured some other kids had probably broken in, but something about the way that door hung, just barely ajar, felt wrong. Against my better judgment, I pushed the door open wider. The smell hit me immediately. Damp wood, decay, and something else. Something metallic. Blood. My flashlight cut through the darkness, landing on an old wooden table in the center of the room. On it was a pile of bones. Small ones, too small to be anything but animal, or at least that's what I told myself. Jake nudged me. "Let's get out of here," he whispered. His voice shook a little. I was about to agree when something scratched against the wall outside. We froze. The sound came again, slow, deliberate. Someone, or something, was circling the cabin. My pulse pounded in my ears. Jake turned off his flashlight, plunging us into darkness. I wanted to tell him to turn it back on, but my mouth wouldn't work. Then, we heard it. A low, rasping voice just outside the door. "I see you." I've never felt a fear like that in my life. It wasn't loud, barely more than a whisper, but it cut through the night like a blade. And it wasn't a voice I recognized. It sounded wrong. Too low, too dry, like it came from someone who hadn't spoken in years. We bolted. I didn't care if we tripped over roots or ran face first into branches. I just needed to get away. We didn't stop running until we were out of the woods and back on the main road. Only then did we dare to look behind us. Nothing. Just the black mouth of the forest, silent and still. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to faint scratching sounds outside my bedroom window. Jake swore he saw something, someone, standing at the edge of the woods when he was home alone. We both started getting these weird, cold feelings, like we were being watched. The worst happened about a month later. I was home alone. My parents had gone out for the evening. Around 10 p.m., the power flickered, then went out completely. I figured it was just a blown fuse. I grabbed a flashlight and headed to the basement. That's when I heard it, from upstairs. Footsteps, slow, heavy footsteps. But the front door was locked. Every door was locked. I should have run, I know that. But instead, I crept back up the basement stairs, barely daring to breathe. The footsteps moved toward my room. My heart slammed against my ribs, but I forced myself to look. The hallway was empty, but my bedroom door, it was open. I hadn't left it that way. I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring into the dark. And then, from inside my room, I heard that same rasping voice, clear as day. "I see you." I don't remember screaming. I don't even remember running out the front door. I just remember sitting on the curb when my parents came home, shaking so badly I couldn't explain what had happened. My dad checked the house. Nothing was out of place. No signs of a break-in. But I knew what I heard. Jake and I stopped going into the woods after that. We didn't talk about it either, not for years. But sometimes, when I'm lying in bed late at night, I still think about that voice. I wonder what it was. And every once in a while, when I'm about to fall asleep, I swear I hear it again. "I see you."